Hello and welcome to the TTI Distribution Download, the podcast where we talk about all things happening in the world of electronic components with the specialists of TTI. And now, your host for the TTI Distribution Download, Paula Renfro.
Welcome, everybody, to the TTI Distribution Download. My name is Paula Renfro, and we are now episode 3 with Gabe Osorio with TTI's Transportation Business Unit.
Hello, Paula.
We like to call it the TBU. So just a couple weeks ago, Gabe was at the ConAg Expo, and he is just, I can tell, bursting to tell you about the exciting things and the fun he had when he was there. So tell us.
Yeah, so a little bit about the show and itself. It's once every 3 years, so it's a very large show. It's about 2.8 million square feet of show space, and that's both indoor and outdoor. It takes up the entire Las Vegas Convention Center, as well as a lot of parking lots, and really kind of really neat to go see. If you've never been, I highly recommend it if it's something on your radar. All of the cement pumpers and the cranes and everything, so they've got their towers all set up and flags flying, so it's just a whole fanfare. But a fantastic show for everything that has to do with construction, agriculture, mining, and then the very kind of niche construction stuff. So think cement pumping, the paving equipment, rock crushers, some mining equipment, stuff like that. So lots of really interesting
Big
stuff.
yellow machines.
Yeah. We were there for 5 days and barely covered all of the ground. It's nearly impossible to walk the entire floor or show space, I should say. But a fantastic opportunity to get to see what are all these manufacturers doing moving forward. And this is a big opportunity for them to sell not only their current equipment, but what's coming down the line and showcase a lot of that. And that's kind of
what you're sparkling about. So tell us
what's coming. That's where the really interesting
coming.
stuff was, right? One of the most popular, I'll say two of the most popular displays, and displays doesn't even do it justice because there's literally grandstands set up with a dirt mound in the middle, and they're showcasing these products. So one of the most popular or most visited was Volvo's all-electric mining equipment, heavy-duty front loaders, bulldozers. I mean, you name it, everything was electrified. And they were doing some demonstrations of some of that product, but the buzz that was around that was unbelievable to see the amount of people. As a matter of fact, I took a couple of pictures of just all of the people standing around the EV stuff and not all the traditional ICE stuff or internal combustion engine stuff that was right next door to it. So it was really fascinating to see, but really cool to see, pinpointing on that Volvo one. Some charging infrastructure partnerships that were there as well too, showcasing their product, right? Previous episodes, we've talked about the megawatt charger. So they had an example of what that might look like there. They had an example of a roller, being charged by a solar power.
Like the cement roller.
Yep, absolutely. Being charged literally by, these big solar panels and then the charging station, but then being plugged into that roller. And imagine what that could do out in a construction site someday in the future.
So do you see the engineers standing around and everybody wishes that was the project they were working on?
Yes, for sure.
but still all very relevant to the projects that they're working on, right? Because if you don't see, you don't get exposed, then you don't imagine and dream. But who wouldn't want to be?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. That was one example. And every single major OEM, so Volvo, Caterpillar, CNH, you name it, all had some sort of EV display separate from their main display that they were showcasing this type of product at. The other really cool thing to see was autonomy creeping its way into construction as well too. So on full display with a link belt display, who's a manufacturer of a big excavator essentially, and a line of those. was displaying autonomous excavating that could be done and doing some pretty pinpoint accuracy on, just a small space and moving dirt, barely scraping maybe a quarter of an inch off of the ground and placing it very gingerly on another site or spot with no one operating it remotely or sitting in the cab doing it, which was really impressive to see as well, too.
Were there component technology that allowed this kind of design that is widely available? Or is this all really kind of leading edge?
Great question. I would say it's a little bit of both. Certainly from the LiDAR, the specific sensors that are being used, the LiDAR maybe not as much widely available, but is out there, certainly from some companies and tech and suppliers. But the sensors that are being used in that, just an unbelievable amount. If you can imagine all the moving parts and measuring that needs to take place, that's all here and now and available today from many of the suppliers on our line card that are selling those sensors. So really cool to see those applications being used in real life and kind of what the future of those are going to look like, and the possibility of what the construction site of 5-10 years from now is going to look like. So that was very interesting.
It's going to be very reliant on the continued evolution of the sensor technology.
Yeah, I would
say space and weight.
Yeah, 100%. That and not only sensor, but even more around cameras and that LiDAR technology, right? Again, so many cameras, a lot of displays for camera companies selling a camera technology or camera system that would give an operator sitting in the cab of an excavator a full bird's eye 360 view of that vehicle. And you can imagine what that can do for line of sight when you're moving things around in a tight zone, anything like that. So really cool stuff that's coming down the line from that perspective as well, too. But again, technology that exists today that are being put to use in different ways now in new markets, which is really cool. Yeah. Oh my gosh, everywhere. Yeah. Everything is fleet controlled, if you can imagine, from a construction perspective or an agriculture perspective. So the ability to track usage, track the systems, track its efficiency, really to even program where it's going and what it's doing. All of that is communicating somewhere outside of that vehicle. So antennas are a huge part of that. Again, I think I've talked a little bit about the movement of data being kind of the future of that electronification. And we were seeing it in plain sight on a lot of these vehicles, which was really cool.
Anything that surprised you, that made you stop and say, no?
Quite honestly, it was that autonomous excavator.
Yeah.
That was not something we expected to see a lot of EV, without a doubt. I did not expect to see autonomy. And that was one of probably 4 separate displays from different manufacturers doing a little bit different things. One was more of a construction site, people moving and equipment moving autonomous vehicle, but the rest were all actual, for example, the excavator or a bulldozer doing more of the work autonomously, again, communicating with antennas to figure out what grade and what level to kind of push the material at. And
then they just send the command and maybe not walk away. But
it was being done, essentially by a guy behind 2 big computer screens, right? That's monitoring
from
and
a long
plugging
way
in.
away.
And, yeah, exactly.
Running more than one at a time.
Yep, without a doubt. So kind of really cool to see what that might look like in the future as well, too, right? Maybe, again, a little bit... we're maybe not quite prepared for that, I would say, from that perspective, but really interesting to see what's coming down the line from the technology perspective there.
And all the manufacturers look strong?
Yeah. We talked to a lot of the customers that were there, the OEMs especially, and really you get a lot, I think, of sense of what the market is doing from those device manufacturers that are there as well. And from everybody we talked to, from lighting guys to people making inverters to every other kind of supporting device, the business was good. And it looked like the market, while for automotive and some of the other transportation markets maybe softening or producing less vehicles, still seems pretty robust for the construction and agriculture so far through 2023, which is great to see, to the point where many of these OEMs are at capacity in terms of orders or have very large backlogs that they're still working to get through. So the business of construction and agriculture is a really good one right now, which is good.
It's good and robust.
Yeah. Yep.
Logistics issues with this technology, supply chain issues with this technology?
I think it's still a little early for it. And thankfully, it's on a lot of, again, when you think about the movement of data, it doesn't necessarily require high power. So not a lot of the copper or precious metal material that might exist for some of those type of applications. So a little bit easier from a supply chain standpoint, and the ability to quickly turn manufacturing of them. You can get a high-speed cable assembly relatively quick in comparison to a high-voltage cable assembly, for comparison. So you may be talking 8 weeks versus 25 or something like that for a high voltage one. So a pretty significant difference.
Construction and agriculture. I'm just hearing dirt, oil, grease, tough on components. Mm-hmm. Hazardous environment, maybe not.
Definitely.
What do we need to pay attention to there, and what kind of value can our engineering team bring to the design engineer with regard?
Yeah, great question. And yes, all of the above: dirt, cement. When you think of all of those construction vehicles, they get sometimes acid washes to get rid of all of the cement or byproduct of whatever construction material they've been moving or dealing with. So, absolutely some harsh environments for interconnects, for the antennas. They need protection as well, too. A lot of the remote devices, et cetera. The good news there is that TTI has what I would consider some of the best suppliers on our line card for harsh environment applications, specifically as it relates to interconnects, but certainly across most components, especially when you start talking high vibration as well too. Those vehicles, today, think big diesel engines, big shaking frame, or moving up and down a mountain, or a vehicle cutting down trees in the forest, whatever that might be. Those are pretty harsh environments. So everything from metal circular connectors to interconnects that latch or lock with a bolt, to again, components built to handle heavy vibration that undergo hundreds of hours of testing, salt spray testing, immersion in water, all kinds of stuff. We definitely have access to the top manufacturers of those type of products that our sales engineers are well versed in. Again, I think I mentioned in a previous episode a couple of our engineers coming from that OEM design background, so they have a keen awareness of who are the manufacturers out there that actually have product that will last, and that will stand the test of time in those kind of harsh environment applications. So we have a unique perspective from that point.
Yeah, a couple of thoughts come to mind there. So one is end of life something to be too worried about, or these components, these designs kind of standardize and last a long time, like the equipment, I would imagine? And is there anything from a lead time perspective or supply chain logistics perspective we should be concerned about?
Yeah, great questions. The interesting thing with a lot of these harsh environment connectors are they were designed 20, 30, sometimes 40 years ago, and are still produced in massive high volumes today and used by every single OEM, from the big green guy to the big yellow guy, right? So they're definitely legacy products that are out there. The good news, too, is that those product families also continue to get expansion within them. So there's development happening within those connector families or product families that will continue to further the life of that family as well, too. So the unique thing in this industry, specifically for construction and agriculture, not a lot has changed from the technology standpoint, on what works. It's not the prettiest looking thing, but it functions really well and stands the test of time, and obviously the stringent requirements that these OEMs have because of the harsh environment and vibration and heat and all of that they exist under. From a supply chain perspective, the world of harsh environment interconnects tends to ebb and flow. We just came off probably 2 years of, I'll say, pretty constrained supply chain as it relates more to the metal side of things. So the terminals or the pins and sockets that would be involved in that from many different suppliers. And now much more eased. That supply chain seems to be much more taken care of. I think suppliers through the pandemic and post-pandemic have learned to dual source material, just like an engineer would dual source a component, to dual source their raw material. I think a lot of them were caught in bad situations where they were relying on one consistent supplier, and that whether it was for plastic or metal, and have now learned that lesson and have expanded and opened up that supply chain a lot more, and the capacity is there for sure, to the point where we've heard from suppliers like, hey, we've got capacity. If there's somebody struggling with something else, come to us and let us know. And there again is some value that our team can bring to, right? If there's a struggling part of a component or specific supplier, again, talk to those engineers.
Making that connection directly back to the manufacturing partner that we have.
That's right.
So let's give a last plug here for the ConAg Expo. Tell us why the design engineer, the transportation engineer that has never considered, just hasn't been on his radar, and now you've brought it there. Why should they go?
Yeah, number one, it's just a really great show. If you enjoy any type of transportation vehicle, and I can speak to that, just wanting to be a truck driver as a kid, this is the show for you. It is a great place to go, kind of let that inner kid out that used to love the excavators or trucks or anything like that. But more importantly, you are exposed to a lot of new design and new technology from that perspective that's coming out in the future that all of these OEMs are working towards. So it's a great way to learn in a short amount of time what the trends are, what customers are asking for, what their fleet customers are asking for, and ultimately try to figure out where your product or your design can help fit that market or support that marketplace as well too. And that's why we attend, is to try to figure out, obviously, what's the need, what's missing from the marketplace, and how can we help fulfill that need.
Very inspiring. Well, thank you. It's been fun. Again, Gabe, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
To our listeners, join us again next time when we'll talk about fire engines.
Perfect.
That's it for this episode of the TTI Distribution Download. For more information on any of the topics you heard about today, reach out to your nearby TTI branch at 1-800-CALL-TTI or visit us online at tti.com.